Hello, everybody. Paul at Raw Life Health Show, and I am holding in my hand the Valasta Astaxanthin product that I take, and I've been selling this. And I just completed the interview I did with the interview I did with Sam Sheppard, the owner of the company, and I also spoke to Dr. Fred Bishop about this product exclusively. And I'm ready to post the interview, and I'm going to post it right now here. But before I do that, I just wanted to let people know you can get this at my website now, rawlife.com. Rawlife.com. That's where you can get this product. And if you are a member of the Raw Life Health Show, you get 10% off with the coupon code. So consider that. But there are so many different astaxanthins on the market. And the more I'm researching, because people are asking me, why this one? What makes this one so much better than those? Well, Sam's going to explain in this interview the difference and why this one's so much better. But besides that, this is really astonishing. When you order it from me, I have a whole sheet here, 2 pages actually, of how to take it and when to take it and all the information of a bunch of frequently asked questions and so on. But the one thing I wanted to show you guys before Sam gets on this interview and teaches you the difference between this product, which is his, versus any other product out there that's claims to sell astaxanthin. I've already contacted 3 separate companies that sell astaxanthin, and this is amazing, folks. Just listen to this. So each 50 millimeter bottle of the Valasta contains 3,033 milligrams of pure astaxanthin and olive oil, approximately 246 pumps per bottle. Each pump contains about 13.5 milligrams of pure natural astaxanthin. So besides it being in the most natural form, which Valasta has a patent on this company to get it in that form, which makes the world of a difference in the quality-wise, but 3,333 milligrams per bottle, and each capsule, each pump is 13.5 milligrams. Now, the other 3 products I looked at that are selling this product on the market, the astaxanthin, is 2 to 4 milligrams per dosage, what they recommend once a day. 2 to 4. 2 milligrams versus what they recommend at Valasta is a person that doesn't have a disease, take your body weight and cut it in half and take that many milligrams approximately. So I weigh about 150, so 75 milligrams, and because I'm healthy. Now, if I wasn't healthy, they'd recommend more, but 75 milligrams of natural pure astaxanthin versus 2 milligrams. What do you think is going to be more successful? And the results speak for themselves. This is why the average person isn't getting better by taking this product in one of these other companies or one of these other forms, but this is the one to take. And I'm glad to have it on my site. All right, here's the interview with Sam Sheppard, who discovered this and is producing it, and I'm so glad to have it now here. Enjoy this interview. Put your questions below the video, and I'll be happy to answer them. Here we go. It's Paul Neeson with the Raw Life Health Show. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited. I've been telling people about how great I've been feeling, and more than ever, even feeling better. Literally noticing a difference. And as those of you that know me, I'm good friends with Dr. Fred Bishop, who's 90 years old, and he's been thriving for a long time with his health. And he always is on the lookout for the latest and greatest products that are going to help people. And he told me about an item a while ago, and several times he gave me a man's name, Sam Sheppard, and I just put it on the side. I didn't get around to calling him whatever. And then finally, I have a close friend whose wife had cancer. And Fred's been telling me about this product, so I told this guy to tell his wife to take it. Now, she had tried just about everything. She even wrote a letter saying that she's tried everything and nothing's working, and she's prepared to whatever our God has in store for her is going to happen. Well, he got this product. He started giving it to her, and it might have been too late because she did pass away. And he called me up after she passed away, and he said, Paul, I just want you to know of everything I've given her, I saw this working, this product. And I believe if this was one of the things we would have given her earlier on, she would have still been with us. And he said he's taking it. Him and his kids are taking it. That's how much he believes in the product. So I called Dr. Bishop up again. I got Sam Sheppard's number, and I started taking the product. I've been taking it now, and I feel the difference, and I know the difference. And then I saw an interview with Sam Sheppard and Dr. Fred Bishy, and I'm convinced, folks, everything. This is an amazing product, and I want our guest Sam Sheppard to talk about it today. But I want to talk. First, I'm going to tell you the product, and he's going to tell you what it is and how he discovered it, and then we'll get into some testimonials. So let's introduce him first. This is an amazing story. I mean, this man had cancer, and he overcame it, and he contributed to this product. So the product is called Astaxanthin. It's an algae. And this is Sam Sheppard, everybody. So let me introduce Sam. Hello, Sam. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul. I'm glad to be here. The only part I want to make as I see you on the screen is, do we have the same shirt on? Is that like a uniform?
It's similar. Yeah, it's similar.
Yeah.
We might think alike.
I'm going, we couldn't have planned that any better. But I'm glad to be here, and I think we got a pretty good story to tell.
Okay, first thing off is everybody, the worst disease out there people suffer from is cancer. And or at least everyone's own disease, their own personal worst disease. But the most popular one is cancer today. You grew up with in your profession, you had a chemical physics mind in what you did for a profession. But then how old were you when you found out that you had cancer? And how was your health prior to that?
I thought I was in pretty good shape. I had done martial arts for years and stayed pretty healthy. I didn't do any real extremes. I never smoked. I didn't do any of those classical evil things that shorten people's lives. But but I had done a lot of work in electromagnetic pulse weapon development, and I think that's probably where this came from. I can't prove it because of the time involved, but in 2003, I was 50 years old, and I was having AFib and high blood pressure. I couldn't quite get down with medication. So I went in for a cardio testing. They found I had no blockage, no heart disease. Heart was slightly enlarged. And then I received a phone call on a Sunday night. I was told to be in the doctor's office first thing Monday morning. And so I went in and sat down. He came in and he said, Sam, he said, I got some bad news. And I said, what's that? He said, you've got polycythemia vera. And I said, what's that? He said, it's a bone-related cancer. And I said, well, what about chemo or radiation? How do you deal with this? And he just shook his head no. At that time, we only knew of about 15,000 people in the United States that had that cancer. So there was no research that was really done on it. There was no money in it. So it just wasn't pressed. And I was sort of in disbelief. So I asked him, I said, well, how much time do I have? And he said, in your current condition, you have anywhere from 10 minutes to 10 years. And he said 97% of the people perish within 10 years. And I said, what about the 10 minutes? And he said, your blood is so thick right now that you could throw a blood clot to the brain, to the heart, or to the lung right now, and it would take me 10 minutes to declare you dead. I said, you've got to be kidding me. And he said, no. He said, I'm not kidding. He said, there's nothing we can do. We're sending you to the hospital now to be phlebotomized. So from 2003 until 2006, every month I would go in and they would phlebotomize me. They would take blood out and replace it. And I guess it's the old analogy, the solution to pollution is dilution. And in 2006, there was a lot of mornings I got up about 4 o'clock, would go sit in the dark and think about things. And it changed my life at that time. But you never see, it became very clear. I had everything that I wanted. I was pretty much independently wealthy. I could have done anything I wanted to do. I had 2 airplanes. And then it just sort of clicked that you don't see a U-Haul attached to a hearse. Nobody's taking it with you. So I thought I had reached a pinch point in my life. I either find a solution for this or I'm a dead man walking. So this one morning I got up and I sit there and I'm thinking about all of these things, and I have all the tools. God gifted me with all of the tools I needed in my toolbox. And the thing that I didn't have was motivation, but now I was heavily motivated. So I said, there's got to be some animals that don't get cancer. And I'm thinking alligators, turtles, catfish, the bottom dwellers that are exposed to a lot of stuff. But when I started the research, I found five: salmon, pink flamingos, sharks, elephants, and naked mole rats. And at that time, I was working with a group out in San Diego, and I asked them if they could determine what is a common molecule that exists across all those genus. If it had been all in one species, like dogs, or just all in humans, or just all in elephants, I'm not sure that we really would have found it. But the fact is that it was across all those genuses, and when they did the test, they did the mass spec, and they found a single molecule that exists across all those genus, and it was astaxanthin. So I knew where astaxanthin came from. It came from an algae called Hematococcus pluvialis. The very first one I bought was at the University of Texas. And those, I call them hillbilly hot tubs, but the blow-up pools you have at Walmart, and they've got a little heater and everything on them. Well, that was my first algae reactor.
So astaxanthin, for people that are listening, it's an algae that
It's actually, let me go through. Hematococcus lives in very austere environment where it grows in its pond during the wet season. Then the pond will dry up. And if it doesn't find a way to block the ultraviolet light, it'll die. So it changed the way that it survives by producing astaxanthin, and it would push it out to the cell membrane, and it would block like a suntan lotion, to keep the ultraviolet light as its pond dried out and the salt level increased in the pond. That's what triggered it to produce this astaxanthin. So it would live 100 years in the dirt, waiting for the next rainfall, and it wouldn't be killed by the bleaching of the sun. And that's what it was. So when it came back, when it would the water would refill its pond, it would be a green algae, just like we see growing in water now. But when it got stressed, it turned candy apple red, and it's the astaxanthin that it pushed out. So I knew that if I grew the Hematococcus and I would simulate it drying out by increasing the salt content, I could make the algae believe that its pond is drying out. So increase the salt concentration, the algae says, oh my golly, my pond is drying up. I got to start producing astaxanthin, and it did. And I would, it's called a DAF, but dissolved air float the algae, the red algae, then to the surface. Then I would skim it off, put it into a dehydrator, and I would put it in my eggs or in my salad. And I started out I knew there was about 3.8% astaxanthin in the algae cells. So I could calculate how many grams of biomass, algae biomass, I had to eat to give me the equivalent of 4 milligrams a day. So I started that, and at 4 milligrams, my phlebotomies got pushed out to once every 2 months, from once a month. Now that's just one data point, and it could have been an abstraction, but I had no side effects at all. So I thought, okay, I'm going to triple. I'm going to go to 12 milligrams a day. So I go to 12, and my phlebotomies got pushed out to once every 4 months. So now I have 2 data points. Then I thought, just as a mathematical game, I was 50 years old. I don't care whether I have to be phlebotomized when I'm 100. So I said, how much do I have to take so that I'm never phlebotomized again for 50 years? And it turned out to be 96 milligrams. So I started taking 100 milligrams a day, and all of my phlebotomies stopped. I had no more. Normal people will produce 3 to 4.5 million red blood cells every day. I was producing 35 million to 65 million every day. And my blood was like ketchup. I mean, it was that thick. So all of a sudden it turned out to be normal in 2015. It took me a long time to figure out why it was working. And I was very skeptical as a researcher. It just was not something that I couldn't quite put my hands on why it was working. So I spent 8 years and figuring out exactly chemically what was going on. And I figured it out. In 2015, I was declared cancer-free, and I am now cancer-free. So when I had family members who had cancer, family and friends, and some of those were stage 4. They had 2 to 4 months, 3 to 6, and less than a year to live. And so I began to give it to them, not knowing what the actual dose requirement was going to be. I knew it worked for me, but I didn't know what worked for them. So gave them very high doses, up to 1,000 milligrams a day equivalent. And their cancer stopped. This was in 2013 is when I started. Those people were still alive and cancer-free. So then I knew that I had something. Then when we began to give it to people who had other inflammatory diseases like diabetes, arthritis, lupus, Parkinsons, those diseases went away.
What about inflammatory bowel disease?
IBS stops within 10 days.
IBD, Crohn's, and colitis?
Yeah, well, some of it's mechanical.
Okay.
So sometimes, like diverticulitis, you've got pockets, mechanical pockets that it's very difficult to get those cleaned out. And but the inflammatory disease, the causes of those symptoms, we can now stop. We can now probably prevent people from getting these inflammatory diseases. But when we gave it to people with diabetes, their blood sugar levels dropped like a rock. They had to come off their insulin, had to come off their metformin, and they're normal.
That's type 2, not type 1.
Type 1, it doesn't. We get a slight effect on type 1s, but I think it's different. What causes type 2 diabetes is the insulin protein itself that's produced gets misfolded. And what causes the misfolding, there's 4 free radicals that I was able to figure out causes inflammatory disease. It's superoxide, singlet oxygen, hydrogen peroxide, and hydroxyl free radical. Those 4 are probably 90 to 95% of causes of all inflammatory diseases. It turns out that the Valasta inhibits all of those free radicals, and it's measured by C-reactive protein. Is how we measure. But when we gave it to those people, and their blood sugars begin to drop, we then realized that the insulin protein is being misfolded by coming into contact with these free radicals. So the more oxidative stress you're under, the higher the likelihood is you're going to have an oxidative stress-related disease, an inflammatory disease. So when we could stop those free radicals, all the inflammatory disease went away.
So I've heard of this product before. It's on the market. What makes Valasters different? And this is important for everyone to understand, because you can go up on the internet and look at Astaxanthin, if you could spell it, and you see other people selling it. But I promise you, Dr. Bishi told me this is different. And I want Sam to explain why this one is different than the other ones on the market. And it's imperative that you understand this. You're just going to run and get the cheapest one you could find. This is so important to understand. So Sam, why is Valasta's advanced astaxanthin different than everyone else out there on the market?
It took me a long time to figure it out. But when I started out, I was eating the actual biomass. And when I switched, I thought I'd be so clever and use the concentrated astaxanthin that you can now buy at Walmart or wherever on the market. And where I was taking 100 milligrams and I was cancer-free, I didn't have to be phlebotomized anymore. When I went to the concentrated form of the astaxanthin, my cancer came back. and I kept increasing the dose. So where I was at 100 milligrams before, I got to 838 milligrams a day of the material that was on the shelf in a store. That's a big difference. That's a 8.3 fold increase that I had to go up in dose to get the same effect. And that caused some concern on my part, because there shouldn't have been a difference between the astaxanthin in the biomass and the astaxanthin that we just extracted using what's called supercritical CO2 extraction. So what was different? And the only difference was the process of extracting it. So
before we get to that, so you're saying you started taking this, you actually got better from cancer, and you said, hey, I'm going to go down to, there's other people selling this. I'm just going to, instead of going through all this work, I'll just go get theirs. And then you realized there was a difference.
There was a
Okay,
pretty
so tell us
dramatic
the difference now. That's amazing. So that's how you found out there was a difference. Now tell us how you discovered what the difference was.
Right. When I began to look at the astaxanthin in the natural form inside the algae, there's two forms that I found. One was called a glucosidic form, and the other one is called a liposomal form. The glucosidic form actually has a glucose molecule attached to the astaxanthin. So if this is the glucose molecule here, it is chemically attached to the astaxanthin molecule here. So when this goes into your small bowel, the cells love glucose, and it's called a Trojan horse. And I studied these a lot in other work that I've done. So when this goes down into the small bowel looks at that and says, that's glucose. It pulls it in, but guess what goes in with it? And it's called a Trojan horse. And they use this in the pharmaceutical industry. It's called a glucoside. So, and the liposomal form is a fatty acid. So I have a fatty acid molecule like vegetable oil. It'll attach to the end of the astaxanthin too. And in fat-soluble tissue, like cell membranes, this will carry it right in. And once it gets inside the cell cracks the fatty acid off. Now you just have the astaxanthin sitting there. So it turned out that it was an absorption issue. When you buy the stuff on the market in the oil form only, the pure astaxanthin, which technically is not natural because the glucoside and the lipid has been removed. But when you take that, only about 8% of that material is actually absorbed in the small bowel. With the Valasta that you showed there, we're up to 94% absorption. That was the difference. So the dose response that we saw by attaching that glucose and putting it back into its natural form, that was the game changer. That's why it worked. Now, how we did that, we currently have a patent pending on the process at which we attach that glucose to the astaxanthin, because you can't do it with temperature, or you'll totally destroy the astaxanthin, the inherent properties of the astaxanthin. So in other work where I had worked with electromagnetic pulse devices, we know the energy required to join the OH of the glucose onto the H of the astaxanthin, so we get water as a byproduct, and then they chemically stick. So now I got a glucose attached to the astaxanthin, and the absorption rate went sky high. That was the game changer.
Wow. So where we come into the whole point of stressing? When it gets stressed, that's when it changes the color. Is the one that you're getting from the store the non-stressed form, or is it the stressed form?
No, it's all the stress form. Astaxanthin by its nature is a red carotenoid. So it's always going to appear red. When we attach the glucose to it, what causes the redness is the conjugated bonds, the alternating double bonds. So you have this phenyl group. It's a ketone. It's got two oxygens and an OH on one end, and this phenyl group on the other end has double bond oxygen and OH group. In between are 18 carbon chains, and alternating a double bond. It's that resonant double bond that gives it the red color. We see canthaxanthin in corn. It doesn't have as many double bonds, but it appears to us to be yellow. Beets, beta carotene. It has a different alternating structure. But it's that chemical structure that appears to us to be color.
So when I took this, one of my questions was like thinking, hey, the more I take, the better it's going to be. So two questions is that necessarily the case? And can you take too much of this?
We've been as high as 3,000 milligrams a day, with the only side effect is your stool is red. It's not blood. It's what we call spillover. When your body can no longer absorb anymore, it just comes out with your stool. And we have no side effects from this.
Well, if your
Zero.
stool's red, does that mean you're taking too much? If you're wasting it?
Yeah, but we still want to see some red in the stool, because if we don't see any color, that means your body needs more of it.
Got you. So that's the way. Now, when you order this, folks, there's two different ways to order it, but they give you a chart, and you could even use it for pets, which is amazing, and children and everything. But they give you a chart on your body weight to how much of it to take. So it's very easy to understand. So when you order it, that's what it shows there. And yes, and it's good for pets. They give a chart, a conversion rate for pets, and so on. So you can't overdo it. At least there's no known over toxicity of it. And now, but you don't have to take too much, because you're saying if you take the recommended dose, it should be good enough. So like if somebody has like cancer versus the average person, do they necessarily need to take more, or is it based on the body weight?
Yeah, it's based on body weight, but for inflammatory diseases, arthritis, cancer, Parkinson's, and I'll talk a little bit about Parkinson's too, and irritable bowel syndrome. We start everybody off at 1 milligram per kilogram of body weight. That gives us the starting point. And with arthritis, and that's the other nice thing about this, is you see the effects so quickly. So in 3 to 10 days, people who have experienced arthritis for 20 or 30 years, their pain goes away. So we keep them at that dose level until their pain goes away. So you take, let's say, 100 milligrams a day until your pain goes away. That's sort of the rhyme. Once the pain goes away, then you cut the dose and you wait 3 days, because it takes 3 days to build up those free radicals. And we want to see whether they're going to start building up again, and they'll reflect in pain. You'll get inflammation in the joint again, and you'll see the pain start to come back. So you wait 3 days, you cut the dose, you wait 3 days. If the pain doesn't come back in 3 days, you cut the dose again. And
so every back. That's how you measure.
Yeah, yep. And every single human being seems to be a little different, and it's directly related to their oxidative stress condition. It can be their diet, it can be their hormone level, it can be their emotional state, It can be their cortisol, their epinephrine levels, their norepinephrine levels. And everybody's different. No one really locks into about the same amount.
Yes. Now, I don't want anyone to seem intimidated. I know it sounds a little complicated, what you just said, but it's very simple. They give you a chart for your body weight, how much to take. And again, great measures. If your stool's not turning red, then you're not taking enough. If the pain isn't going away, you're not taking enough. If your pain's going away long enough, you can cut back a little and then see how it is. It's really simple, and they're here to help you. I'm here to help you. It's just a great product. Now, there's different ways to take it. Now, the original way you took it, it comes like this. It's like an oil, almost like it's a red oil. And this is the original way. And then you started adding capsules, and they send these capsules with it. And basically, you just put a couple of pumps in the capsule. Based on my body weight, it's 3 pumps per 1 capsule, and I take 2 capsules a day. And that's just it. That's simple. But a quick question. So if I'm taking 2 capsules, can I take it all at once, or should I take it separately? It doesn't matter.
We prefer, from what we've seen with the data so far, we prefer you taking it with a meal. And the reason is we want to get it past the stomach as quickly as possible. And when you eat a meal, it has a tendency to dilute the HCl in your stomach. Usually right before a meal, you've got a lot of acid in your stomach.
Okay.
And we want to get it into the small bowel as quickly as possible, and that's where the absorption happens. It
So
doesn't happen in the stomach.
before, during, or after the meal, does it make a difference?
During or after the meal,
Okay. And
that
the
would
other,
be preferred.
so now if somebody was taking 2 capsules a day, is it better to take those 2 capsules with their meal at the same time, or with their morning meal and their evening meal? Is that better? Does it make a difference?
Now, I don't want to get into an age thing here, but with the elderly, it's a little easier for them to remember that after each meal to take one. So we sort of tell them after each meal, make sure you take one. If you lock it into, say, everybody just takes it all at lunch, they'll forget it. So it's just a psychological.
Absorption wise in the
Doesn't
body, it
matter.
doesn't make a difference
No,
either way.
no.
Okay. Speaking of,
The,
yeah, go ahead.
the astaxanthin itself is lipid soluble. So your half life is about 50 hours. So if I take it and I stop taking it, half of it in my body is going to deplete in 50 hours. In another 50 hours, that's going to deplete by a half. So you can see if it was water soluble, like vitamin C or some of the B vitamins, they're water soluble. So you just urinate those out every day. You have to take those every day. With astaxanthin, you can forget it or miss a dose. You're still protected, but you don't want to go more than two half lives, because you're down to only about 25% of the effective dose. Then.
So if you do if you're taking it regularly and then you miss a day, no problem. But if you miss a couple of days, do you lose the whole benefit of everything you've taken, or you got to start all over again, or do you just lose the benefit during that time period?
Yeah, just pick it back up again, but it's a slower ramp up to get you back up to a protective level. But if you miss a week, you start over again.
Okay.
If you miss a couple days, you'll be able to catch it and ramp it back up again.
Okay. Now the time you take it, does it make a difference? Because what I noticed the difference is, I took it during the day and I was doing great, and then one time I took it at night and I'm like, whoa, I didn't have the best time
Were you
sleeping.
awake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The same thing happened to me, by the way. It does give you a little energy kick, and I don't have an explanation for that yet. I don't know why it is. The B vitamins will do the same thing. B12. You don't want to take B12 at night for that same reason. So I don't know what it is. I have a hypothesis as to what it is that I believe that all the free radicals are wiped out, and you have all this excess energy from the immune system with no place to go. So the electrical signals now from that excess energy, you have to dissipate that energy somehow. So you have to dissipate it. So I think that's where the excess energy goes away. The chocolate.
I was going to bring that up now because you went from scraping this off a pond to like saying I can't market this, or how are people going to do this, and you come up with all the capsules. Was later decided I take this in a capsule and I absolutely have no taste. I mean, there's no taste. It doesn't taste bad. There's no taste from my experience taking this. But this product is something that I'm so excited about. Now, Sam, I know it's getting late. You wanted to talk about Parkinson, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that we found, we began to give it to folks, Parkinson's patients that had arthritis or had some other inflammatory disease. Irritable bowel is one, diabetes is another. But we began to give it to them, and within 10 days, all their tremors went away, all their hallucinations went away. They technically no longer are diagnosed with Parkinson's. That was a game changer. We were trying to figure out why in the world did the tremors. I've got people who are tremming 400 to 800 tremors per minute. They can't speak, they can't write, they can barely walk, and some of them can't even feed themselves. They throw the food. So when we've got 28 Parkinson's people right now, we gave it to them within 30 days. Their tremors completely stopped. And so back to the drawing board I go to try to figure out why is that happening. And we were able to figure it out. Current medical thought is that Parkinson's is caused by a lack of dopamine produced in the brain. What we're finding out is that that may not be true. The brain's producing a lot of dopamine. The problem is that dopamine reacts with a hydroxyl free radical, and it makes a chemical compound called oxydopamine. Oxydopamine is what we give to animals to give them Parkinson's so that we can test Parkinson's medications on them. So when I did the oxydopamine to dopamine ratio, I found in all Parkinson's patients that ratio was high. In normal people, it's very low. So the theory was when I gave them the Valasta, it reacted away the hydroxyl free radical. It took it away, so it can't react with dopamine. And sure enough, the symptoms went away. So that's the theory behind it, and the experiments sort of prove that that is what's going on. Now, I'm also the president of the Inflammatory Disease Research Foundation. It's one of the things that we're trying to do right now to fund how that works. So if anyone wants to donate to the IDRF, they can give me a call, but it's the Inflammatory Disease Research Foundation. And a lot of our work's being done through that. It's a nonprofit. You get a tax write-off and the whole thing. But
Yeah.
the Parkinson's is one of them now. 24 of the 28 have gotten their driver's license back.
Wow.
It's shocking.
I think I saw somewhere you mentioned something also about autism. So would it be the same idea as Parkinson with the autism?
It is. What we're finding when we look at EEGs on autistic children, there's a lot of high frequency alpha and gamma waves that's going on in the brain. A lot of that's from electrical imbalance in the brain. And there's a lot of things that can cause it. It can be dietary, it can be heavy metals, it can be anything that causes the formation of those free radicals. It can be hormonal, it can be fear, it can be epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol. So if children are predisposed in a fearful way, or if they're genetically predisposed, they have no glutathione, for example. If they're not, and this is what causes childhood cancer, we find that the children, for some reason, that they're not producing glutathione. So their antioxidant age is 50 years old. And when I looked at glutathione levels in people from 5 years of age to 105, I can pull blood samples and look at the glutathione levels in their bloodstream, in their red blood cells. And that's how I found where the CRP went up as the glutathione production dropped off at about 50 years of age. But when I got out to about 85, 90, 95, and 100-year-old people, their glutathione level is equivalent to that of being a 40-year-old. It's not that it jumps up. It's just that they're genetically predisposed to be producing higher levels of glutathione. That's what allows them to live to be an older age. And children, on the other end of that spectrum, if they're genetically predisposed not to have glutathione production, or a very low level for whatever reason, and it could be free radical attack, then they're going to get childhood diseases.
So can this, like from bipolar and other mental disorders as well, what you just said, can this replace like opioids in terms of dealing with these?
There's a lot more work that needs to be done, but the basic premise is yes. If this is a free radical attack in the brain, very high electrical activity in the brain caused by, because these free radicals cross the blood-brain barrier. So if for some reason they're predisposed for these high concentrations of free radicals in the brain, absolutely this will work because this crosses the blood-brain barrier also and goes after it.
So we're looking at a potential alternative to opioids. Wow, that's
Well,
amazing considering how bad they are and how they're just given by so many people. All right, well, we've taken a good amount of your time, Sam, and I so appreciate it. And I want everyone to try this product, and I promise you won't be disappointed. And I get a lot of people that recommend a lot of supplements and products, and this one, it came on a testimony of my friend that said, Paul, I've seen it with my wife that had cancer, and now I'm taking it and seeing great results that I started taking, and I'm seeing these great results. Thank you so much for doing your research with this. Before we end this interview, uh, what would you like to let people know about this in terms of giving it a try and not just thinking it's just another?
there's no reason not to. Even the economics of it was established not as a business. This whole thing was done for a lot more narcissistic reasons. It was to save my own life, and so we didn't look at it as a product to sell. It's not something that's going to make anybody in this business wealthy. And those who can't afford it, economics should be no reason why somebody dies of cancer. And I've got 22 families right now that we give it to them. They have no insurance. They've been diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer. They've been given anywhere from 2 to 4, 3 to 6 months. And I'm tired of the way the healthcare industry works. This product is at least sits on the other side of the scale and gives us another option. There's no reason not to do it. There's no downside to not doing it.
Sure. Well, I'm thankful that working with you, I could offer people a discount when they put in my code. So thank you for letting me help people with that. And everybody, thank you for watching this. Put your questions in below the video, and I'll have Sam on again, and we'll answer those questions. Maybe we'll even do a live chat with him, and we'll have live questions so people can get on all over the world. Sam, thank you for everything you're doing. And I know when you were going through your cancer, it was one of the worst situations in your life. But now, just like when I went through my disease, it was so terrible. But I see it one of the best blessings that ever happened to me because it opened my whole world to things I never would have.
God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
so
Paul, I want to thank you too, and I'm so glad you wore the right shirt.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you again, and have a blessed night, and we'll talk to you again soon. Hello, everybody. It's Paul. I just want to give you guys an update. So I've been wanting to try to find a way to get this Valasta to everyone on a discounted rate because it's such a great product. I've been talking about this for so long. This Valasta. There's a copy. There's what it looks like. It's orange. This is the world's strongest antioxidant, and it's just so powerful, such a great product. But here's my update. I just got them in. I just got the packages in now. So if you go to rawlife.com, you can get this now. And if you're a member of the Raw Life Health Show, you can get it for 10% off. And so check that out, rawlifehealthshow.com. If you're a member of the Raw Life Health Show, you get 10% off. Let's see. Alrighty, so there it is. That's how it comes. And we got a whole bunch of these. I'm excited to get these in your hands. This product is the real deal, folks. And it's available now at rawlife.com. And remember, you can be a member of the Raw Life Health Show and get 10% off. Again, I'm going to be showing you a video coming up here in a couple of days with the owner of this company. But this product gets you, it has the highest amount of antioxidants than any other food out there. There's so much information I'm going to be sharing here soon. You want to get this now. I have it at rawlife.com. I'll put a link below the video to that and also to the member website, Raw Life Health Show, that you can sign up there and become a member there as well, so you get 10% off. Let me know if you have any questions. Put them below the video, but please get these. I don't have many, but and they'll sell soon. I'm going to get more in, but get these as soon as possible. Start taking them. As you can see, I take it, and I love it. And let me know about your testimonies once you start taking them. Thank you.